We'll start here momentarily. Call the Henry County Council April 27th, 2023 meeting to order. If you would please stand, Shannon will lead the pledge and Susan in prayer. Council, you should have received the minutes from our March 23rd meeting. I think there were a few minor corrections that Shannon responded back to Debbie. I would entertain a motion if there are not any further changes or corrections to pass the minutes. A motion to pass.
I'll make that motion.
Shannon?
Second.
Second by Susan. Any discussion or changes, corrections? All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Passes 5-0. Betsy was going to be on Zoom, but we're having some technical difficulties, so she may be accessing us through YouTube as soon as we're up on that. So, just an FYI. Second on the agenda is EDC update. Mr. Corey Murphy is here.
So at last month's meeting, you all approved a match to go for an additional funding from OCRA, the Office of Community and Rural Affairs, for small business grants. We also work with the commissioners, the auditor's office. The grant window was very quick. It actually closed yesterday at 4 p.m. We're still processing in terms of cataloging what we have. I think yesterday at the commissioners meeting, I said approximately 50. I'm going to revise that down to approximately 40 because we had some duplicates brought in and then also emailed. So, but nonetheless, a good response. The maximum grant award per business is $10,000. We've got $240,000 to grant out. I'm confident that we have more than 24. So, pending compliance and then a review from our committee, I'm hopeful, although no guarantee, but I'm hopeful that maybe every applicant gets something. So appreciate your support in that regard, and I'd be happy to answer any questions, but that concludes my report.
That was the world's quickest report. I did listen in last night, commissioners, and you said you wouldn't be surprised if there were like 50 applicants.
Right.
That really had good response in that short window.
Yeah.
$6,000, going to bring forth $240,000.
Yes.
I assume then there's ARA gets some, or did we pay for that with our 10,000 annual membership?
ARA gets the 6,000.
Okay. That's still big bang for the buck when it comes to grants.
And then we distribute the 240,000.
Okay, that's really good bang for our buck, so that's good. Appreciate that. And you have the same team as the last round to go through and...
Yeah, it is volunteers of our Enterprise Loan Fund Committee.
Okay. And they'll vet the apps and...
We have a scoring criteria.
Okay. And the new members, that scoring criteria that was shared with us 2 years ago, whenever the first round was. appreciate that committee to do that and you to head this up and get it done in such a short period of time, like 2 weeks from start to finish. So thank you, Corey.
Thank you.
And we have Shonda here for a chamber update. I know some of us have attended some ribbon cuttings, and there's positive things going on in Henry County.
Yeah, we're busy. So we recently had 2 ribbon cuttings, and thank you to those who could join us. We have another one this Saturday at 9 a.m. The girls softball is having their opening at 9 a.m. over at Osborne Park. So appreciate that and everyone's support of the gala and those recognized at the gala that are doing great things in Henry County. But you may have seen in the paper or on social media the parade route for Memorial Day has changed for this year. So, yay, we have Indiana's largest Memorial Day parade, a great feather to put in Henry County's cap, but also means you have a lot of cats to herd. So we have changed that to go straight down South Main Street. It will not go down Bundy and jog past the cemetery. It will go straight to the ballpark area, turn right at Baker Park, and disperse. They can disperse in Baker Park or at the field house. So that was under the request of the city that we changed that route, so that has been done. Also coming up May 5th is the Chamber Career Day. That's a Friday. We'll start at 8:30. We have over 800 students from Henry County coming to that. We have over 60 businesses that will be there in support of the students. If you aren't familiar, this is a career day that helps the kids explore what fields they might want to go to once they're out of high school. So everything from contractors to healthcare, it's just a diverse variety of employers. Like I said, there's over 70 right now signed up for that. We've added this year a public element to that, so at 2:30 that will open up and become your traditional job fair, and that's at the Arts Pavilion. So there is a public element to that this year at 2:30. Then May 18th is our next chamber lunch. We'll have Renee Wagner from Ivy Tech, and she will be speaking on diversity in the workplace. So our last 3 or 4 lunches have sold out, so if you'd like to come to lunch, always register early because we hate turning people away, but we've been having to do that recently. So that's what's on our radar right now. I'm doing some videos and such in the community, but right now it's the parade. It's all parade.
On your career day, that May 5th, is the whole thing at the Art Pavilion? Mm-hmm. Okay. I caught that the afternoon one was, but okay. It starts at 8:30
For the students.
for the students.
Yeah, and we can't have the public in there at the same time as the students. So public will start at 2:30.
Okay. Questions for Shonda? Lot of positive things going on in Newcastle and Henry County.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you. Always welcome to share.
I know. Thank you.
Okay, we have a survey request for a transfer of funds. I was over speaking with my liaison in the zoning, and Steve asked me to walk over 20 feet to his office, and he mentioned that there was going to be a need. And it's in writing for us. The surveyor office would like to transfer the following: $297 from GIS office supplies to GIS travel and training. And it was reported that she needs to do some things, and she also has a state office in that area as she's taught the class at Ball State. So this is just a need. Since that position was vacant for several months, the need is there again. And Steve is here if there's any questions. Otherwise, I'd entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
It's been moved. Okay, was it Susan and Mike in that
Yes.
order? Okay, thank you. Any questions, comments? If not, all in favor, aye.
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 Opposed, nay. Passes 5-0. Betsy, like I said, was going to appear.
She's emailing us the EIRPC update. Did you see that?
That's what I was pausing to
Sorry.
have it up. I just now saw it. You have it up already. You can read it.
working on it. One
Okay,
second.
while you're doing that and getting it in order, she had a meeting, and I think you attended it also, I'm guessing, Bobby. Bobby's on the executive board of the EIRPC. She was nominated and chosen for that position a few months ago. Betsy was in Rushville, I believe, and there's an update. So you can read what Betsy has, and then Bobby might add further between the lines, since we couldn't do Zoom. So go ahead, you're up.
I've got it on a bigger screen than you do, so I'll go ahead and read
Go
it.
ahead.
Henry County was well represented at the Fish Moon Brewery Restaurant in Rushville today. Myself, Bobby Plummer, Joe Copeland, Jerry Walden, Dan Fountain, and Corey Murphy all attended. Largest contingency of the 6 counties in the EIRPC. The Regional Comprehensive Economic Development Plan was approved at our February 21st meeting. The EIRPC is working with the Economic Development Administration under the U.S. Department of Commerce to see where we might receive funding in our region. The EDA likes projects with an emphasis on workforce growth, and the plan is for the EIRPC board to meet with the EDA on May 31st to see what local projects we might be able to collaborate on. We had a presentation from Kat Seeley, who is the Program Outreach Manager for INDOT, and she would serve as our local point of contact if we have any questions. She was very informative. I asked Corey Knipp where the conversation about broadband was. The state is still in the engagement process, but we know there will be $700 million to $1 billion available for broadband expansion. Corey emphasized that the state really wants to see data from our region and county, and he and I are going to talk soon about exactly what that would look like. Corey recommends that we have a county broadband task force, and I would volunteer to be a part of that. The EIRPC third quarter meeting will be in Henry County, not sure of the location.
And Bobby, do you have anything that parallel what, we all get the same email, I think. And I just now read that she passed it on to Debbie to pass on to Bobby. And I didn't read that until about halfway through you. Okay. Any questions about EIRPC? Seems like we're an active member and they're doing things, and broadband's on the radar for sure. Anything else you'd like to share, Corey? Are we good? Do you agree with those statements, Red? Okay, good. We're good to go. Thank you, Bobby, if you're listening. I mean, Betsy and Bobby for being the exec. Okay, next on the agenda, we have the Enterprise Fleet Vehicle. We have Captain Matt Pierce here, and you can introduce your guest, which I listened to last night as I tuned into the commissioners meeting. They're going to sign the contract, so you can do the Reader's Digest, Cliff Notes version if you want. We just approved the budget. And if you don't meet what you said you're going to do, in a year from now, we'll have a conversation. You're on.
Well, there you go.
Thank you. Hi, my name is Nicola Jones. I work with Enterprise Fleet Management. I've been working with Captain Matt Pierce and a couple other folks at the Sheriff's Department, just gathering some data on their fleet and basically putting together a fleet synopsis that you guys should all have in front of you today. So as far as the cliff notes of everything that we did, what Enterprise Fleet Management does is we work with different commercial and government clients throughout the entire country, but here in the local state of Indiana, there's a team of us that manage about 150 customers and around 12,000 vehicles. So we look at everything from a total cost of ownership. So our goal is to drive down total cost of ownership on the county's vehicles through an effective vehicle life cycle using a customized fleet solution. So with the synopsis in front of you guys, kind of like a cliff version, if I take the 30 vehicles that the Sheriff's Department currently has, put them on more of an effective life cycle. So right now the life cycle is 7.5 years. If we decrease that to 3.8 years, we're conservatively able to save the county $624,616 over the next 10 years by putting these vehicles on an effective life cycle. I guess that's the cliff notes for everything.
Can we get that in writing as a warranty?
I wish. But I guess what is important for you guys is on page 5, this is kind of a proposed fiscal year 24 budget. So in year 1, we're recommending replacing 9 vehicles. Those 9 vehicles are the vehicles that have over 100,000 miles or older than 5 years. We had to start somewhere as far as like a replacement criteria. So those 9 vehicles. So on the far left column, you'll see the current vehicle that it is, 2024 replacement, most of them being a 2024 Chevrolet Tahoe, with one exception of being a 2024 Ram 1500. Departments of Sheriffs, you've got the estimated fair market values of $93,000 for those 9 vehicles, and then you've got the terms, so ranging from 36 to 48 months. That's just based on annual driving behavior for the current employee that is driving that vehicle. We do require a 25% down payment on any type of aftermarket that is more than $5,000. So with the aftermarket expense being $6,761.89, that down payment would be $1,700. Now you can use the equity from the resale of those vehicles to go towards that down payment if you would like to. So then that brings you to the base monthly payments. And then we do have our maintenance management fee. So our maintenance management program is where we're plugging the sheriff's vehicles into our enterprise infrastructure, where they're getting our pre-negotiated rates at our preferred vendors that we have in the county and like statewide if they needed to. And then all of that data flows to our website too. So we're using that data and we're tracking it. So that way, when we come, year over year to make recommendations, we've got your data to make the best financial recommendation as far as moving forward with the next round of vehicles. Then you've got your total monthly payment and your annual outlay. So conservatively, got an annual outlay of $134,410.56, which is actually a little less than what's projected in that 10-year analysis, essentially, because I use that just like as a concept, but we try to get as pretty close to exact pricing. And the pricing on the vehicle right now, I've got it based on current model year 23 pricing with a 10% markup because we don't know what model year 24 pricing is. GM typically doesn't release that until a couple weeks before order banks open for those vehicles. Yay! And then I did include the current $8,000 government incentive on the Chevrolet Tahoe and a current $2,500 government incentive on that Ram 1500, and that does include the aftermarket upfit and graphics cost. Like I said, that was the $6,761.89 for the Chevrolet Tahoes. I will just pause there.
You have,
Questions?
on page 5, you have 9 vehicles that I believe current vehicles that our department has, right, Matt?
Yes.
And how many are we planning on at this 134 purchasing? 9 or fewer?
So on average, you guys are purchasing about 4 vehicles per
Right.
year for the
This
sheriff's
year's
department.
4, correct?
Correct.
And I listened last night, we have 3 and 1 still on order, correct?
Correct.
Okay. If you haven't listened last night, it's very, very thorough. It wasn't the Reader's Digest, and the council, or the commissioners had some really good questions. I would suggest that you study this and go to YouTube and listen last night. I know some of the council have already done so because they mentioned it to me today. So this year we have it budgeted out of we moved it from CCD to safety lit, $152,000 in this year's budget, correct?
Yes, that's the 152 out of lit.
And that was able to get the 4, but it wasn't totally dressing out, is that correct? Or were
The
we-
average price for the 4 was $40,947, so,
We were under, and we still have to dress out.
correct. The price with graphics and the upfitting was roughly $47,717.84 times 4.
Are those vehicles ordered?
3 of those vehicles are sitting in our lot awaiting to be upfitted.
One of the questions that I have is it possible to accelerate this program with those 4 vehicles? Can we start the program this year? The vehicle's already ordered. We've already essentially paid for them. Will Enterprise take ownership of those vehicles, charge us leases, and let us move forward that way?
So we own those vehicles. Those vehicles are paid for. We can go into their program as far as other things, but as far as the lease, obviously with every lease, we will never have ownership of those vehicles unless we pay it off at the end. At the end, we'll have the opportunity, if the value's there, if the budget's there, whatever it is, we could purchase that vehicle for the remaining residual value. But at this point, those vehicles are ours, and I'm sure she'll tell you we probably could not get in there, but
That was my question before, having done this before. Vehicles that have not been put into service, I had been able to move them to a lease program, so that's why I'm asking.
Yeah, no, great question. So essentially, yes, you can. We can do what's called a purchase leaseback since you guys already own the vehicle. So essentially what we do is we evaluate the value of those vehicles, and we'll give you, let's say, 75 cents on the dollar for those vehicles. So we give you a chunk of change, but then you turn around and we just release that back to you. So that is an option if they wanted to do that. Does that make sense?
75 cents on the dollar, then that other 25 cents on the dollar roughly counts as our down payment that you would charge us on a different vehicle?
that counts as their profit.
No. So that's just using an example. So that 75 cents on the dollar, that's just the equity that we're giving you back for those vehicles,
Right.
essentially. And then the same thing, like these vehicles, will depreciate them down to a reduced book value.
Right. That dollar amount, though, using the dollar amounts that we just talked about, $47,000 per vehicle, if we were to sell them to you, make the lease payments, the net pocket, I'd have to break out the calculator. I can't do that kind of math in my head. I'm looking at this year's budget, how much dollars we would offset from this year's budget and actually pay for those over the remaining terms of the lease. That could be beneficial to put dollars back into the budget if we chose to do that.
Correct.
So from a dollars and cents standpoint, there could be an advantage to starting earlier. I'm not going to try to guess at that, but something to think about. Sure. Makes the numbers a little easier to calculate.
Here's the thing I will say with that is, with the plan as it's set, we will be moving these 23 vehicles out long before the 7.5 years. So if you look, when you go down to that big breakdown where owned vehicle, when we sell them, what do you call it? Own, is it this one?
Yeah.
Equity for owned. So when we sell those 23s, we will obviously be selling them at a much
Higher rate, yes.
correct, because they won't be sitting in the back of the sheriff's department in 7.5 years. So at that point, we'll also see that money come back to reduce that year's cost or to offset that lease. So I guess we could ask her if she can to look at the difference of if we take the money now or if we get it in
Sure.
3.8 years.
Dollars and cents wise, I'm looking at it from an annual budget standpoint. We can make the 23 budget stretch further if we started it now versus starting it in 24. So
And that's why we brought this here early, so we
Appreciate
could
that, yeah.
approach you guys and the commissioners to get this out there for these questions.
So at the $50,000, because it's easier to calculate, so you're saying $37,500, in this example, would come back to the county. The $12,500
No, because we're not taking that money from you guys at all. So
we've already spent that money. Yeah.
where was that $12,500 going to go?
Well, no, my question is, we've already spent the 50,000, call that times 4, so $200,000. If they're going to pay us 75 cents on the dollar, they're going to write us a check for $150,000. Our lease payments for the remainder of the year would be, I guess, roughly $1,700. The net balance to the budget this year would have dollars left.
So that 25% essentially is like, I guess, a down payment.
It's like the down payment,
Right,
yes.
yeah.
Yeah. No, okay. I think I got my question answered. It can be done if we choose to do that, so,
Correct, yeah, we just call it a purchase leaseback.
yes.
Welcome.
We budgeted 152,000, and you at 47.5, that's 186. I'm actually using your figures rather than rounding. So what's paying for the, I'm afraid to ask, the 34,000 shortfall?
I didn't think we budgeted 152.
Yeah.
I thought we budgeted, we don't usually budget 4 vehicles, we budget 3. not in CCD.
No, it's safety lit, I'm sorry. It was in CCD,
Yeah.
then last year we moved it to safety lit.
Sheriff vehicles in lit, it's 152.
It was 152, because I looked it up. Yeah, I looked it up after listening to
Should
you
be
last night.
negative.
It's 152, and I think Matt even mentioned 152 at the meeting last night. It had been.
That was the original,
Pardon?
that was the original budget for sheriff vehicles in lit, was 152, unless I'm reading it wrong.
Yeah, and we'd gone up, the 2 previous years was just 135.
Well, I think in previous years it was in another budget, if I'm not.
One of the things, that-
CCD, it was.
looking at the payments that are in this book, the booklet you gave us, if the payments on the Tahoe are $11.88 a month, and we've got 4 of those, I'm assuming those are Tahoes sitting over there. I have no idea. But $11.88 times 4 times 7 months is $33,000 for the year. If you guys bought those from us, you would write us a check for roughly $150,000 if we were using the $50,000 numbers. So the net to our budget would be just under $120,000 additional left in the general fund that we could allocate elsewhere for 2023, as long as we are allocating lease payments in 2024. That's what I was trying to get to.
I think it would be a good idea if the sheriff's department is willing to have Shannon speak with them, with Enterprise, to talk through that scenario. I don't know if that is something that,
So that's why we brought Nicola here. She can speak to the lease side of it. Basically, I'm here obviously as the representative of the Sheriff's Department, but I'm also the fleet manager now, and basically I can speak to what we currently have, where we're kind of headed, and what we've been doing. I would say that, of course, we'd be open to that, but I want to make sure that if we're going to lease vehicles, that it's not like a one-year deal. I want to make sure that the commissioners, the
We
council,
gotta be all
potentially
in,
looking
yeah.
further down the road, because if we just do it this year and go, oh, next year, that's just not a good thing for us, now we're kind of stuck in the middle of something.
yeah, right. Well, what if we requested that Enterprise come back with a scenario where they did buy back those vehicles and actually provide numbers, and then the sheriff's department could decide if it had any negative implications for them if that was done?
Yeah, I mean, I have no problem putting together a purchase lease back scenario. I will say, I won't update the 10-year analysis because that's,
Sure.
a concept. But as far as from a pricing structure, I absolutely could do that.
From a dollars and cents standpoint, this council can look at that. As far as executing that contract, though, that resides with the commissioners.
Right.
And I will speak on this half of it. We actually had a meeting today, and one of the vehicles is one of the topics, because we are putting 4 vehicles in service this year, 2 for the patrol division, 2 for the detective division. And, I mean, if you go back and look at our current inventory and our current fleet, 4 wasn't enough to start with this year. I'll be honest. We've been down officers, and, we came to you guys, I think it was the last meeting, requesting the lateral. I'm going to give you a quick update on that in the middle of this. Last night, the morning board met, and we gave conditionals to 2 laterals. So we're going to be bringing, as long as medical and all that pans out, we'll be bringing 2 ILA certified officers onto the department to fill 2 of our current 3 openings, and we're expecting an opening in early fall. So, but it's going to plug in 2 academy graduates to kind of break that cycle for us, and we're kind of excited about that. So we'd like to extend thank you for you, the council, for allowing us to offer them that $5,000 bonus, because that did really help. So,
Good
sorry to
news.
interrupt the vehicle thing, but again, we had the meeting today. We have a 2018 that's wrecked. It's at the body shop now. We're just waiting on the insurance company, but there's a high likelihood that it's going to not be coming back to the fleet. So that's going to put us down again. And the reason Captain Kovacs has been able to make it with vehicles is we've been shorthanded at least 3 officers, so it's freed up 3 vehicles. So.
And that's going to change, it sounds like, in the near future. So you need vehicles for the new personnel
Correct.
that put
So,
them on the road, which is what the sheriff's department normally has assigned.
correct. I know one of the pool cars that is currently on the road today is in excess of 183,000 miles. And I don't know if you guys caught this at the commissioners meeting last night. She did a great job with the numbers I gave her, because it's the numbers I had for vehicle maintenance. but our relationship with County Highway is no more, and we now are in the outside free market to get our vehicles repaired. So we expect that vehicle maintenance number, if we keep an older fleet, to go up exponentially, because I think we were paying somewhere around $22 an hour labor. I'm guessing most shops are 80 would be a good deal, 100 is probably normal.
Right, yeah, we had provided that through the highway department, and I think the State Board of Accounts nixed that.
And that's okay. I just want to know that when we look at that, $374.26 on page 4, under our current cycle for maintenance, that's per car per month. But that's included transmissions, engine work, and a lot of things that County Highway was doing, which we appreciated at that rate which they charged. But now we're going to seek outside to get that work done, because our fleet is still aging and that work is still going to have to be completed. But that's reflecting that reduced hourly rate when we were having that done, because this is from last year's numbers for maintenance. I don't have this year's numbers for maintenance yet, because we're just barely into it.
How much was the highway department charging per hour?
I think we reversed at 22, which would be the rate of, well, it was the rate in which the employee was paying, so it was not coming out of the county highway budget for them paying an employee to work on sheriff's department vehicles. And then we covered all the expenses for parts.
So now you're looking at 80 to 100 if you're lucky.
I mean, that's a reasonable rate if we go to anywhere, I would think.
And that's been my average. And you may,
Yes.
I don't know if they give a discount for law enforcement or not, but
I do think we get, I mean, they appreciate what we do, and we've used several local vendors so far, and they've been excellent, but of course, it's going to cost us more because they have a business to run. They got lights and to keep on and people to feed.
we've, in 2020, this all comes out of the sheriff's 05 fund, 53 for vehicle maintenance, and then 21, 22, the COVID years, we stuck at 67,000. And we went up to, it looks like 84,000 this year, but I realizing from what you said, the switch over from highway department to outside vendors, our maintenance is going to eat up that 84,000. I think I gave,
And
Debbie took the book, but we're about 35%, I think, already, which is not out of line because we're 30% through the year.
conveniently, I just got a text from Captain Kovacs that he just received word from Riley & Son that the insurance is considering our 2018 Charger totaled.
Okay.
So that's now one more vehicle, which we're going to have to scrape to get in service, because we're running the exact number of vehicles right now, plus 2 pool cars for our current officers.
Well, I think the council wants to do as much as we can.
I get
think
it.
every department's kind of running lean the last several years. We're waiting for a report. Now, financially, and Shannon rightfully said, the contract's up to the commissioners. We're just concerned about that these figures are accurate. We'll know within a year if that's what the commissioners decide to go with. We said if it's way over the 134,000, we'll probably have a heart-to-heart next year when it comes budget time, but a lot of this is on faith. But they're the ones that are going to have to do a lot of the homework, but I think Shannon brought up some really good questions. If that could help this year's budget back to the general fund or get some money back, that would be great to look into as an option. So,
Well,
We have to be committed, as was mentioned, that, 134,000 annual outlay is just for those vehicles. By the time all vehicles are in this, we're at $460,000 a year. Is that correct? All
yeah.
30 vehicles?
No, essentially, yes, Shannon. But one thing to consider is, rolling over that equity as well. So that's just like the upfront. But when you roll over that equity as a down payment, then that then decreases your lease payment as well. So that's why we, kind of added up that entire fleet budget over the next 10 years of, 4.1 million and some change versus you guys are currently doing, 4.75 million and some change. So, instead of an overall fleet budget of $475,575, you can have an average budget every single year of $413,112. So that's where you kind of get, the average annual savings of around, 62,000 and some change, year over year, if you divide that number out over the, the 10 years. So like, yes, some years might be a little bit more, some might be a little bit less, but it's depending on the average, annual purchases that you're needing. But eventually it starts to just kind of like even out.
It's going to even out and hover around within a range.
Yeah,
But we'll have reliable, efficient vehicles for the sheriff's department to use.
correct.
And not only that, we'll have data on our fleet that we don't currently have, partnering with them because they keep track of that.
Other questions, council? A lot to digest. So we're interested in the money, the budget, because we have to budget. Commissioners are going to have to look at the fine tooth comb over everything else and put a lot of faith in your research, the sheriff's department research, and your numbers. Nicola?
Yeah, no, I understand. And one thing like I do just kind of want to highlight, just so you guys are aware as far as like the, kind of the state of the union updated from a manufacturer standpoint, right? So with, with GM, so last year when order banks opened for Chevy Tahoes for the police, they were open like 3 hours. So we want to make sure that the sheriff's department is in the best situation possible to kind of be like first in line for those vehicles. So last year, on those order banks, and I apologize, I'm pulling back up my screen. Those order banks opened May 19th, and then they obviously closed May 19th, but production began July 18th, and then those vehicles arrived typically 21 to 23 weeks later. That's, like the lead time. This year for the Ram 1500s, I will say that the estimated order bank opening dates for Ram is June 15th, and production will begin July 15th, and then you've got a lead time of 18 to 22 weeks on those. So like I said, I just want to make sure that the sheriff's department is in the best position possible to be first in line to place those orders, because we had a State of the Union update yesterday with our entire enterprise fleet management team across the country as far as what's going on with the manufacturers and what they're doing, and they're basically telling us be first in line.
As far as insurance costs, are we still in the same position for insuring vehicles? I mean, we're talking about a totaled vehicle here, so no difference from an insurance perspective?
Yeah, we still continue that. We hold the policy on the vehicle, just like we would.
Thank you.
And one quick thing before I'm done. I think if you caught it last night, why she's talking about ordering banks is the fact that since COVID, there's not allocation to dealerships. Kelly Chevrolet, Bloomington Ford, all these big dealerships used to have an inventory of surplus government vehicles, whether it be police vehicles, any other pickup truck and things like that. And now with these orders, we ordered our Durangos in December because the window was open for that period, and we started taking delivery. We had one vehicle totaled in late December. I was able to call Fletcher Dodge where we did our last order, and he's like, "You're in luck. We have one car for you. If you want it, say now or never, because if you pass, it's sold today because the other two sold yesterday because Zionsville didn't pick up 3." So that's kind of the importance with when she's talking about the windows, is not to put pressure, but once that's done, there's no allocated vehicles sitting out there on lots like it used to be, which used to be really nice because you could wait till the last minute, or you could get good deals on vehicles that never got sold. We had several occasions where we picked up year-old vehicles off lots at a discounted rate. It doesn't happen anymore.
Did I hear also from last night's meeting that Enterprise does have access to some vehicles?
Correct. They're like everybody else. They have vehicles that were placed on order. I think you told me about the situation for Lebanon. Mm-hmm. You were able to locate them some vehicles to get them in the program that are within their fleet. They may not be exactly spec'd as we, because if we order whatever Tahoes, they're all coming with our order. We're going to be able to pick what's on them, what's not on them.
Right.
A replacement vehicle will be, she'll reach out, find one, hopefully in that color, within our price range, and we will put it in and make it work.
Right. So the vehicle that's at Riley and Sons right now could be put into this program as whatever she might have available that would fit our needs.
Correct. And that's the other thing right now. The workload for all the vehicle management is on a few of us, Captain Kovacs and myself mostly.
No question, yeah.
With them, they take over some of that workload, and they monitor the whole process from the vehicle being wrecked. They take care of it.
Perfect. Thank you.
Is that right?
Yeah, and the answer to your question, Shannon, is yes.
If I were Matt, I would be in favor of this. It took some of your workload off the vehicles.
Nicola, hypothetically, how long would the lease buyback, I think that's what you called it, that program with our existing four, how long would it take to institute that if that was something that we wanted to pursue?
I could do it as soon as contracts are signed. So I will say it's on you guys, essentially, to get through those. Yeah, I can, that's a very simple, easy thing for us to do. Yep.
I know listening last night, I think you referenced maybe checking with Hancock County,
I did speak with the sheriff of Hancock County last week.
and mostly good news is what I heard last night.
Correct. I may be off a vehicle too, because it was a phone conversation I had. I think they had 29 of their fleet right now under enterprise, and I think the question was asked last night, why not all of them? Because we still have some vehicles that basically you have to offset the time if we upfit them. So at some point, if we turn around and sell them the next year, we're losing money. So same thing in their case. They are on a program as well. They go with recommendation. They send the vehicles out, and then they're working towards a completely leased fleet. So a couple problems, nothing major, and otherwise happy.
Looks like several counties in Indiana are using you for the same purpose. Are most of them sheriff's departments, or there's also county and city governments, or?
Yeah, it's a mixture. So as far as the counties go, some do their entire fleets, some just do highway and health department, some just do sheriff. It just really depends on, the county and the needs and, starting out the partnership essentially.
Other questions? Very informative.
Thank you.
Right now, I'm glad I'm not a commissioner, but we would like to have the answers to the financial questions, mainly posed by, I think, Susan and Shannon and Kyle.
Will that proposal have or reflect the difference in maintenance as well? We're not paying the maintenance on those four. Is that possible? So if they were purchased back from you guys, and we would then be under the $111 a month maintenance payment with you, correct?
Yeah, so we can, for that maintenance management program, we can put that on all leased and current owned vehicles for the sheriff's department. So that way we're tracking the data on the current fleet as well. So that when we're making the recommendations moving forward, we've even got a better tracking of that data, and it's plugging them into our infrastructure. So anytime we can piggyback off of the rental car infrastructure that they have set up from their network of body shops or maintenance vendors, they're getting those pre-negotiated parts and labor rates there as well. Welcome.
Other questions? Shannon, Susan? Nope, good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Very
I really
much.
appreciate it.
We have our homework, not as much as the commissioners, but we have our homework. Thanks.
We appreciate the time.
Yeah, thank you for doing all that research and bringing that information to the commissioners last night and to us today. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
If you have any questions, we're both available.
Okay.
Outside of this, obviously.
On the surface, it sounds like it has a lot of potential, so thank you. Additional appropriation. I'm going to be asking Debbie something here probably. Aries is the first one. If you'd like to come forward, I know this is an annual that you got information on from March 20th. It totals $58,303. It's broken down. We also have the newsletter, the April 2023 newsletter from Aries, which is very informative as well. So this is a request for an additional appropriation. Butch is at the microphone. We have any questions or anything you'd like to say, Butch? This is the annual.
Yeah, annually we do this every year. It's every county has an LCC, local coordinating committee, council, and the funds that you're allocating are funds that have been through the court system. And those funds then go into a fund. It's sort of like a state grant, but we don't get our money from the state. We get the money locally from fines and fees, from court costs, from people who get arrested, charged, convicted, and pay for driving under the influence, possession of drugs, those type of things. That money then comes back to our committee, who then within our county, we use that money to support education, treatment, and enforcement. There's a little bit of administrative fees there, but that's minimal. And we do it through a grant. People can write a grant for it. We have a form. They fill out the grant. They submit it. We have a committee that then reviews it, and then we appropriate or approve them to have so much money for the different educational, treatment, and enforcement programs.
I see you have naloxone
Yes.
in the building at the Henry County EMS. I think previously I read or heard you report that there was one
I think we
down
have-
at Agape or down at the church?
Down at Foursquare Church.
Foursquare Church.
Countywide, we're trying to get maybe about 8 of them throughout the county. I think right now we have 4 or 5. We make application to the state, and then the state has to approve it. And then I know we got one up at Mount Summit, and we got the ones here in Newcastle. And I'm pretty sure they've got the one up in Knightstown. So we got a few more places like Moreland. We'd like to find a centralized place to put one. But the state furnishes all the supplies and the equipment. We're just sort of the cavity that they feed it through.
The one at Foursquare was like a vending machine, wasn't it? Are the others distributed by staff members, or how's that work?
No, once we get approved, then they will send to the location the box and a supply of the Narcan, and basically we install the box on whatever, if it's a fire station or if it's a church or a business. Some businesses didn't want it, some businesses will take it, type thing, and then we keep it supplied, and then as people come and get it, I know. And it may be that they don't even use it, but they're concerned about a loved one in their family, and so they see the news and they read things, and then so they go by and they grab one out of the box, and then that way they have one at home in case one of their loved ones or relatives or neighbor or somebody falls out. I mean, just the other day down in Knightstown, 2 people, mom and dad, both overdosed, and the child found them, and so one was completely unresponsive, and the other one was just barely breathing. So law enforcement and medics and fire got there and took care of that. But had the young man that found him, had he had access to the Narcan, I'm sure if he'd used it, it would have probably helped.
Okay, and you have information in your newsletter, like it talks about how to call the Henry County EMS and the email and the phone number and all that.
Yep.
So if you have questions, there's contacts. Very informative newsletter. So, Council, you have any questions on this additional appropriation of $58,303? If not, I would entertain a motion to approve.
Motion to approve.
Susan, second.
Second.
Second by Shannon. Any other comments, questions for Butch? If not, all in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Passes 6-0.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate the work you do. Now, I think I shared with council, I had questions about these additional appropriations for the fiscal agent of 8901, Education Prevention Fund, 1,647, Treatment and Intervention Fund of 18,358, Justice Law Enforcement Fund of 14,577. And Debbie replied what this was for. Would you, for the public and for refreshing in case not everybody read that correspondence, share the purpose of these additional appropriations, what it's for and why it's there? Yeah, under his, we talked about his, but is that all for, that's all his? Okay. Thank you for connecting the dots for me. Okay, that's taken care of. Next, we have Carla Bennett, sick pay. And Carla is retiring on May 19th, next month, after 20 years of service. Clerk, Public Defender's Office. This comes from Kathy Eek. And the amount for the council is 560 hours of sick pay, $10,880.80. Do I have a motion to approve that? Moved by Harold. Seconded by Mike. Any questions, comments? If not, all in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Passes 6-0. I know Kathy was here earlier, but hopefully we will get thank yous out for her, and there may be a retirement thing to be posted in the future, which some of us try to attend, but we appreciate her 20 years of service to Henry County and the Public Defender's Office. This is updated from last night. This is the ARPA resolution. Let me find the update that Joel sent out today. There was some discussion last night for you who tuned in to the commissioners meeting. I see Tim's here. He presented last night. We're looking at numbers 28 and 29 on the updated Exhibit A that Joel sent us. The county council approves the expenditure of revenue received from the Coronas Local Fiscal Recovery Fund as set forth in Exhibit A. It was enacted by the Board of Commissioners last evening. Excuse me. Number 28, $49,769.72 for the acquisition of 20 Viking portable radios. I know Tim last night gave a description as to why this was needed for future and also future requirements. It amends an amount that was approved in a resolution from March the 8th, I think. Go ahead, Bobby. And Tim's here also. I just happen to listen.
So that one, the original amount of 45,000 was approved by commissioners, but it didn't, your resolution didn't get updated for your meeting in March.
And this is that update.
And then in that time frame, the cost went up. So we had to adjust it in ours and have Joel quickly get it so you guys could have it.
Okay.
So that's what that one is about.
No shock on price increases every other month. And 29, I know, Tim, go ahead, whoever. You want to share anything? I know some of us, about half of us, have listened to last night's meeting.
So last night was kind of brief because we had discussed it several times in the past. But speaking on the radios first, there was a price increase. That's why it changed. And I guess I don't need to go in that too deep on that. But the building, which I believe is what we're referencing now, was talked about earlier this year and finally has turned into where we are today. The building would be in conjunction with the health department, the EMA and health department, and we kind of created this idea from during COVID time and weather issues with storing supplies and trailers and things outside. Just to put it in a nutshell, there's a high level of expense in replacing all of our hazardous materials gears that's outside in our trailers. I'll break it in half. One will be EMA, then it'll be health department. So what we've had to do is rebuild trailers this past year, and we've had to start storing them inside at the Henry County District 6 Training Center, which is, it's not really intended for that, and I could barely get one of them in there. Well, we do have several things that we've replaced, and the cost of our suits through the Local Emergency Planning Committee is about $2,500 a piece. And it doesn't take long to have suits ruined because of weather to figure out our cost gets pretty extreme. There's also a lot of testing items in that trailer for hazardous material response that we've had to replace. Just one sensor was over $1,000. So the expenses grow quite quickly. That's what led us to the idea of a facility or a structure to store things in. Secondary or equally or more important was during COVID times for the health department, they had a lot of deliveries. And one of the requirements for deliveries for acceptance through state products and state supplies, they have to be able to deliver with a semi. Henry County did not have a facility to receive those from the health department, so they had to travel and talking to Don and Angela to Muncie or Indy and things like that to get supplies that they needed. And this would facilitate that as well. So what we're talking about is a structure at the District 6 training ground out on North Hillsborough Road, and it would be a 4-bay facility, 74 by 40. Those doors, 1 would facilitate health department, 3 would facilitate EMA. It would be heated and cooled, sustained by the health department. We're not talking about keeping it 90 degrees in the winter. We're just talking about keeping it above freezing so we don't lose all of the things that we have already. And whatever deliveries that would take place for the health department or EMA that are required to be received by a semi-trailer, that would fit that as well. That facility, if you don't know already, it is secure with a fence, which everybody that needs access has access, and those trailers and supplies will be kept inside for longevity purposes and security. Concreted floors, insulated, and the building would last for some time.
I'd asked you last month to be here because I had attended the Newcastle City Council where you were sharing a very tentative initial quotes on a building and giving the rationale. And I think when I asked you, it was a little bit premature for where we were here for the county, but.
It was equally my fault as well. So
No, that's okay. I just kind of wanted to share with the whole council what I heard at the Newcastle Council, City Council meeting. And we have all the specifics and actual costs because you'd only had one, I think, quote or bid.
It was slow, yes.
And it was kind of high, if I remember right, where
Yes,
this
and then,
one's more competitive.
correct. And actually, the individual that stepped up for this one, he was able to reduce the cost significantly, just saying that he understands how important it is, and he's a retired emergency service worker, so he would help out quite a bit.
Okay, so this is like a pole structure.
It is a pole barn structure, correct. All steel roof.
And what are the dimensions? How big did you say? 4 bays?
74 long, 40 deep.
Yeah, you got a pretty good price.
Yes.
Yeah, he's not making a lot of profit on this, I don't think, given today's, okay. So I read the first one about the 20, and that has to do with the update and the price increase. The number 29 is a sum of $145,612 for the pole structure that Tim just shared, and that's been kind of a group effort between, I think, Angela and the health department to have for the same reasons that you quoted, and for especially the hazardous materials, the trailers, and for EMA. So.
One other thing, Councilman, if I could mention, the other part of this was training facility. We would be able to use part of this as needed to move things in and out, and the concept was that we could even put a small fire truck in there, an ambulance, whatever we would need to do for training as well. That was the other concept between having some heat to it. It would just be an added bonus that we'd be able to use for that as well.
So really multi-purpose, but it meets the needs of
That was our goal,
more than one
yes.
department also.
Correct,
And COVID brought to mind some shortcomings that we had
correct.
in several areas, not just Hendry County, but around the country, I think. So this one was the amount that I said, $145,612. Any questions with Tim while he's up there at the podium?
Okay.
Okay. Well, thank you and Angela for working on this, and it seems like it's going to meet a need. This is, again, coming from the ARPA funds. So do I have a motion to approve these two items, number 28 and number 29, for the amount stated on your handout?
And then I'd like to say that I would commend the commissioners for not reducing the scope on the radios and backing the dollars amount back. That was a good move. It would cost you more later to save a few bucks now. So good job, commissioners, from my standpoint. And I would move to approve the resolution as presented with number 28 and 29.
Okay, thank you. Moved by Shannon. Second by Mike. Any other discussion, questions? If not, all in favor, aye.
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 Opposed, nay. And then passes 6-0. Thank you, Tim.
All right, thank you.
Next, we have a job classification update, and Susan led the meeting today prior to ours. So Susan, the floor is yours.
Thanks. We had 6 different items that we looked at, and I thought I would discuss one at a time, and we could vote one at a time, if that is okay. And the first one was from Public Defender Catherine Eakey, and she came and asked us if she could hire a part-time person for, I think, just 3 days to train under Carla, who is getting ready to leave. We just approved her sick payout for a total cost of $490, which they're going to pay from within their own budget, no additional funds. And we voted unanimously to approve that request.
You want to do one at a time? These are all different, aren't they? Okay, do I have a motion to approve the 490 for part-time public defender? So moved by Kyle,
Second.
second by Shannon. Any other questions, comments? If not, all in favor, aye.
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 Opposed, nay. Passes 6-0. Thank you. Next.
The next request was from Angela Cox, and she is preparing to receive grant monies, and in doing so, she is creating a second full-time job position, and then she'll have 2 full-time registrars, which will be cross-trained for both positions. So in anticipation of those dollars, she is asking to have a salary ordinance created for this second full-time registrar position, and we voted unanimously to have that salary ordinance created.
No amount at this time,
Good enough.
correct?
Was that accurate? Okay. Right.
You have
And
what that is.
right. So as Shannon pointed out during the meeting, it'll go from 1.5 people to 2 full-time people, and the increase will be paid for by a grant, anticipated grant funds.
Is this the drug-free communities? No.
Okay.
Okay, gotcha. That was just passed, like, this week.
Minutes
Yes.
ago.
Yeah, I read it last night late, so hot off the press. So
And we voted unanimously to have her go ahead and, or have the salary ordinance created.
So to have a motion to approve this salary ordinance for the health department for the registrar. Moved by Harold? Second by Kyle. Questions, comments?
Yeah, I have a comment real quick, because I think we discussed having the job description updated before the salary ordinance was created. Is that correct? Or no?
Is that through Wagner, Irwin, Shealy?
Yeah, don't we have to send it to Wagner and Shirley? And because we are joining 2 together. So we already have a job description. Okay, thank you. My
Okay.
mistake.
So, where were we? Oh, comment. We had a motion and a second. Kyle seconded. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed, nay? Passes 6-0. Next, Susan?
Yes. Number 3 was from Debbie Walker, our auditor, and she was talking to us about how her department has reduced headcount, and her current employees have absorbed job tasks from those open positions. So she was asking permission to have her employees write updated job descriptions and then send those to Wagner, Irwin, and Shields to be reevaluated. And we voted unanimously to allow her to do that.
So this is just an updated job descriptions for the existing staff, which is fewer than what had been.
Right.
Okay. All in favor? No. Motion?
So I would make a motion that we would allow Debbie's department to have their job descriptions updated.
Moved by Susan,
Second.
second by Shannon. Questions, comments? If not, all in favor, aye.
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 Opposed, nay. Passes 6-0. Fourth.
Okay, so the next was Butch Baker talking to us about an IT position in his group. And he had spoken with us before about the fear of losing this IT person who's a great asset for the county. And so he wrote up a new job description and sent that to Wagner, Irwin, and Shields. And they came back and said that they would recommend we categorize him as an SO because we don't currently have a job classification that's a good fit for the skills that were presented in the job description. and the recommended kind of average salary recommendation was $52,510. So his current salary is approximately $41,000, and I forget what the current job class is, so I can look that up here in a minute. Current class, okay, he's a pull. And so we voted unanimously to reclassify this job position as a SO, and with a salary of $52,510.
I have a question. So he reports to you? So he's going to be making $7,000 more than most of our department heads, and everybody's okay with that?
It is a more competitive wage for this type of work. And it does, I think, we had a little bit of discussion about how it reflects a little bit of a weakness perhaps in our job classification system, that we maybe don't have a job classification for IT individuals. We just did this for our GIS position, and now this IT individual, and IT work is specialized work, and perhaps it's a weakness in our job classification system. I don't know.
It probably is. I'm just putting myself in the shoes of Butch and a lot of department heads that I agree, $52,000 for an IT person in the marketplace is probably low. It's just our marketplace is public rather than private. So I think we're just all over the map. Just my thoughts. I'm not here to dispute what the job classification did, but if I were some of these individuals who've worked 20 years making far, far less than this, I would probably be scratching my head and looking for a job elsewhere. But then I'm not disputing what you did.
I would challenge any one of them to be able to do what this man been doing.
I agree.
So, look at that job description and what he's taking care of. He's good. He's doing what needs to be done. We don't have a job classification that we can accurately put him in with his skill set for what he's doing. I think I asked during the meeting, should we create a new job classification? I don't know that we've ever had to do that, but
right here it's showing as the SO. The SO position is actually for those that have
that don't fit in all those others. Yeah.
building inspector, the different ones that they don't fit the qualification of all the other jobs. That's what SO is designed for.
I think $52,000 for this position, looking at the whole marketplace, is probably low. Looking at our Henry County government marketplace, it's high. And reconciling the two, you have comments, so go ahead, Butch.
I was just going to say that, start with, I understand your comment about different individuals working within the county who make X number of dollars, which is set by you guys and the commissioners, I mean, we just went through not too long ago a thing out at the highway where you had a guy that wanted the extra $12,000, you didn't give him the $12,000, and then you end up having to hire a guy and give him $12,000. So I mean, I don't want to lose him because I'm not going to find anybody with his skills, abilities, and knowledge that's going to come, probably even at the $52,000 for one. You may or may not figure this out or know, but he's going to be making more money than I do, and I don't care. I'm all right with that. I need his expertise. He's more important to that operation and to the county as a whole, all the deputies and the firemen and the policemen and the EMS, than I am. So we need him, and I don't want to lose him. Was he actively looking? No. Yeah, every once in a while he'd say something. I mean, start with, he owns 2 businesses in Nicetown. So, but this is where his passion is. This is what he loves to do. And he's done a whole lot of things with the Spillman and the 911 and active 911 system, a lot more than it's ever been done before. And if you talk to most of the officers, I think Nate was here today and he spoke up and he said, yeah, he's done a lot for the upgrades within one of the things he did that we had the ability to do for years, but the previous person didn't do, said it couldn't be done, is when an officer out on the street stops somebody and they say, oh, I don't have my license with me, but here's my date of birth and name, and they'd go back and run it, and it'd come back to Billy Bob. Well, when it came in, it comes onto their screen. Their driver's license come on the screen. They can see the driver's license picture. And then they can go up and say, well, you're not Billy Bob. Your picture's not showing up. I mean, those are the kind of things technology-wise that he's set up and done that we didn't have before.
Things that we had already paid for that we should have been able to do that we were not able to.
Right, exactly. So that's why I think it's important for the county
Okay,
to retain him.
okay. Well, you've answered my questions.
Okay.
Any others? If not, did we have a motion? I've lost track. It was like eons ago.
I'll make the motion.
Motion by Shannon. Second by Mike. Any other questions? As I said, mine were answered. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Passes 5-0, because we lost a person. Okay. Number 5.
Yes, Prosecutor Mahoney came to talk to us about the Level 6 Deputy Prosecuting Attorney position. This was the position that he currently held before being elected to prosecutor. And so the job has been posted at $67,000 since October, and they were hoping to fill that position by January the 1st. They have had very little interest in that position and have not filled it. He also gave us some information about open deputy prosecuting attorney positions across the state, and many of them are not filling either due to low salaries. He had kind of an initial request of maybe raising that salary offer to $75,000, but it was the recommendation of the committee that he turn the job description back into Wagner Irwin Shields for reevaluation. And we voted unanimously that he would do that.
So you need us to also approve that motion. Okay. Motion?
So moved.
Shannon?
Second.
Second, Susan? Any other questions, comments? If not, all in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Passes 5.
Last one. The Sheriff's Department, through Ann, came to speak with us about the transfer of the assistant, what'd you say, assistant matron or secretary, or they had other names, she said, but the assistant matron is currently a comment 4 and changing that job description to a poll 2. And she had rewritten the job description. There is a lot of information that this kind of a secretarial position needs to have about the jail, which the Sheriff's Department feels would be more appropriate than to give this individual a poll 2 position. And we voted to send this also to Wagner Irwin Shields for reevaluation and then to discuss it again based on what they had to say. And that vote was unanimous.
Okay. Motion to approve, send into Wagner Irwin Shealy.
So moved.
Shannon?
Second.
Second by Harold. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Passes 5-0. That was number 6. Is that it? Anything else? You went through all 6 of those in 35 minutes. 30 minutes. Because I came in 35 and you were done. Well, kudos to a well-run meeting. If I do enough of these, maybe I'll do the same. Okay, next, Boar's Head. I actually did print out, and I destroyed a tree in the process. And we do this looks familiar, every year? Yes, it's required. Yes. And this is the first installment of those. There one addressed to the council, one addressed to the auditor. For each of these, there's a Boar's Head on Brooks Drive, there's a Boar's Head provisions on County Road 400 South, and then there's the Frank Brunkhorst that we did last year as well. These relate to abatements, correct? and they're the annual reports. So looking at the first one for the council, we need to approve. I need a motion and a second, unless you have questions beforehand, of the voluminous reports that's required on I assume, a state-required form that we have. The first one on Brooks Drive, questions, comments, or do I have a motion? Moved by Harold. Did I have a second?
Second.
Second by Shannon. Any questions, comments, discussion? If not, motion to approve?
Aye.
Aye.
I heard 3 ayes. I think Susan was the first one, maybe. Are you trying to trick me? I did. Do I have a motion to approve?
We already had a motion. Harold made it. I seconded it.
Oh, thanks. It's getting late. Okay, let's hurry this up. Shannon seconded. I'm sorry. All in favor, aye.
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 Opposed, nay. Passes 5-0. Now, the second one, and I'll kind of keep track of the motions on this one, addressed to the council, is the CF1 report for Boar's Head provisions on County Road 400 South. If there's no questions, I'll take a motion.
So moved.
Moved by Shannon. Do I have a second? Second by Mike. Discussion? If not, all in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Passes 5-0. Okay. I remember this name because it's about as unusual as Kennan, the last name. Frank Brunkhorst. This is the annual update. Also relates to Boar's Head. The one addressed to the Henry County Council from his LLC, the CF1. If there's no questions, to entertain a motion.
So moved.
Moved by Shannon. Second by Mike. Discussion? If not, all in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Passes 5-0. Any public comment? Hi, Lisa. Any more public comment? We did earlier. We did. Yeah, we dealt with those, Harold. Attorney Harvey, any comments? Are we good legally? We're good legally. That's okay. The goal here was to have a shorter meeting than the commissioners last night for the first time in the 4 years I've been on the, and if we have a motion to adjourn, we'll meet that. I have some updates for the council. Please read over. So this was part of my goal that you read over, and I won't read it aloud so that we do meet the deadline from last night, which was 1 hour and 50 minutes. We've done this in 1 hour and 20. Please mark this in the minutes, our shortest meeting in a year. Motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Next Thursday, 4:30, work session. Cake. We have cake. Cake.
You missed one.
I wondered about that.
That's okay, that's why.
No, no, there's chocolate and there's white cake and there's plates. Everybody leave downstairs basement. Or you may not be able to leave downstairs basement. That would be to the west side, please.